Welcome back, everybody. My name is Pritesh here with Kaizen Crypto. Thank you all so much for joining me here today. I hope you guys are all doing well. In this video, it's my interview with the team at WADA. So the West African Decentralized Alliance is helping to bring about adoption and education for blockchain solutions such as Cardano. It was a really insightful conversation and I learned a lot from it. So I hope you guys do enjoy it. If you do, please be sure to drop a like. Also, I did go ahead and leave some links for their Project Catalyst proposals down in the description. We did go ahead and touch on those in our conversation. And if you'd like to support WADA, please consider voting for their Project Catalyst proposals. So guys, let's go ahead and jump right in. Hey, everybody, welcome back. My name is Pritesh with Kaizen Crypto. Today, I'm joined by the team with WADA. So we've got Mercy, Sydney, and Genty here joining us today. Guys, how are you all doing?
Doing great.
Doing well. Thank you.
That's really cool. I'm excited for our conversation today, guys. I guess to start things off for the audience who might not be aware, could you tell us a little bit about WADA, a little bit about the mission, and what you guys are trying to do in Africa?
I'll go ahead and jump in there if that's okay, Mercy.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so WADA, the West African Decentralized Alliance, we're looking to take advantage of the technology that's come about through cryptocurrency and some other technologies. There are some great opportunities on the continent as well as in the diaspora, and really with crypto and blockchain in general, I think there's so many solutions out there: identity, currency, logistics. There's so many opportunities to increase the movement of goods and services and connect folks on the continent and in the diaspora in a way that kind of helps lift all of us up. So that's kind of my quick end, but I think, Mercy, I'm going to defer to you now because I think you got a lot more to say there.
Not a whole lot more. I think you said it very well. So, for those of us in the Cardano ecosystem or the Cardano community, a lot of us identify with, like how Charles is able to message that in terms of, where Africa is at this point, and how, when we look at blockchain, or we look at distributed ledger technology, or we look at Cardano in particular, what it can possibly do for Africa. When we compare Africa to, the Western world, we know that there is a lot that can be done in terms of identity, in terms of record keeping, in terms of financial transactions, and even insurance. So WADA sort of, we plug into that big Cardano vision, in the sense that we think that at this point in time, as Sydney has said, everything is just at the perfect equilibrium to make blockchain adoption happen in Africa. In terms of the age of the population, in terms of everything else that we've said already. So basically, we just we want to be the impetus or the force that actually helps Africa to realize her potential in terms of blockchain, Cardano, distributed ledger technology in general. So yeah, that's WADA.
Very interesting. Very interesting. And Genty, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you're contributing to WADA?
Yes, I met Mercy on the chat and Telegram, and we inquired about others' goals and offered to contribute to help establish also a hub in Central Africa. WADA was focusing in West Africa, and I said we could expand and also affect more people. And there were also other members who couldn't join us today. Megan, for example, she's in Cameroon. She's right in the middle. Cameroon is like between East, West, and Central Africa. And myself, I'm in the DRC, help other developers, especially in the city of Goma and the city of Kinshasa, get acquainted with blockchain and the applications that the blockchain can sustain.
I gotcha. Okay, so now So you're in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Okay. And then Mercy, where are you calling in from today?
Right now, I'm actually calling in from Canada. I was born in Ghana in West Africa. So we have a team, a WADA team there that we communicate with on a daily basis. Actually, in July, August, I might be sneaking in to Ghana to sort of, meet the team and see if I can do a bit of travel in the sub-region. Right now, we are active in Ivory Coast, in Nigeria, and as Jonty has said, in DRC and Cameroon, and every day we get, interest in terms of spreading to the rest of Africa. Initially, we thought that we'll just focus in West Africa, but immediately it became apparent that it's a whole of Africa thing, and as Sydney said, also a diaspora thing. And decentralization makes that possible, right? Because sometimes it's easy to do it the centralized way, to get one boss that takes a decision and things move fast. But if we do decentralization well, it helps us to scale, right? Because everybody comes with their strength and their network, and as long as they are being useful within the network, they will always find a place. So that's how we do it. So in WADA, we also think of ourselves as a resource sharing network, because we don't have nobody can say that they know everything and they can do everything. But if I'm good at A and Sydney is good at B and Jonty is good at C and you are good at D, then we sort of we're able to share and we're able to grow and expand our way. One of our statements is we add to multiply. Every time we add, it doesn't become just an addition. It's actually a multiplication. So yeah.
I gotcha. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So now just from what you guys are seeing there in terms of blockchain solutions for Africa, I guess, could you tell us a little bit about some of the things that you're trying to solve with using blockchain technology?
Yeah, I'm happy to let Jonty take that for now. Yeah.
Again, Pritesh, like I'm in Canada currently, but hopefully I'll be back to DRC soon again. In terms of blockchain technology, there is already a lot that is solving. First of all, I would say Bitcoin itself and Ethereum and other coins. They are basically already being used in Africa. Like Nigeria would be one of the countries with the most usage of volume of trade of Bitcoin. And they're kind of aware of it. In East Africa also, people know about a lot of coins. In the case of Cardano, what I find it very interesting is that it offers so much flexibility in terms of what is offered. Like the possibilities are quite large. When I think about the native tokens, they can represent so much. In my case, I was interested in terms of blockchain to move money transfer. That is the first idea that came to my mind. It's still doable. It's still, there are so many options, so many coins you can use to exchange funds without any difficulty in terms of distances. But with Cardano, already by looking at what is done, like in Ethiopia with the Ministry of Education, you can already see that information is basically saved independently from the usual issuers. Like, yes, the Ministry of Education will validate at the beginning, but afterwards, validation is already kind of confirmed and it's passed on, and people can actually transfer it and keep it. I still see it as an opening. If the blockchain can basically allow you to prove something, then there's so many things that are not proven just because of the lack of infrastructure. In some African countries, there is even no identity for yourself. In DRC, we do have passports, but we do not have like an identity. Like, when I was coming to Canada, I could have changed my name so many times. There was no proof to prove who I was at that time. And it's kind of funny because for us, it's kind of easy to do it. But when you get in in these countries and you tell somebody that you could have changed your identity whenever you had wanted to do it, well, it's an advantage and also an inconvenience. It's an inconvenience because when you look, for example, when you go to apply for a loan, or you want to build your wealth, or you want to build your credit, or you want to build your history, then that instability itself becomes an issue. And I think the blockchain can make things a bit more independent from the infrastructure that exists and offer more infrastructure.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you guys, just feel free to jump in whenever, but, just to talk on some things that you had mentioned there, Jonty. So for most people looking at blockchain technology, just being able to transfer wealth from one person to another, like with what you were saying with Bitcoin, I think that's what a lot of people think about when they first hear about blockchain and crypto and all that kind of stuff. But what we're seeing now, like you had mentioned in Ethiopia with the identity solution, was 5 million students are going to have these credentials, and they're hoping to bring on even more students, hopefully planning for up to like 20 million or so in the next 5 years. So I think the potential is there. And, maybe it's not, maybe it's just what we are seeing right now from the outside, but it's really great to have a conversation with you guys because of what you're doing. You're actually on the ground, right? So that's from what I'm looking at. It's like, okay, so now we've got identity, but then if we think about other things like supply chain, right? So if you think about, the origin of some of these goods and services that are coming from Africa, how do you tell if they're legitimate? So those are some things that come to my mind with it. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I'll jump in there as well. Yeah, I mean, there's so much. I mean, we talk about this a lot with the WADA team and some other folks that that are in the ecosystem. But really, we kind of get to we kind of get to reimagine our whole future. So the future isn't here, and we have these new rails that that are really interesting rails. I mean, with this immutable data, with this ledger that doesn't require someone else to manage it, with these ideas of these DAOs and even just kind of the types of things that we've dreamt up for our society in general, right? And this is not just something in Africa. This is really kind of across the world. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's all kinds of stuff going on across the world. And I think before. The technology hadn't necessarily matured in a way where we could realize these ideas. But with blockchain, I think definitely it's a remarkable technology that's going to allow us to record things in a way that we couldn't record things before. And specifically with Cardano, it's just the way that the protocol was developed and it's preparation for what's coming. It's how it's substance, just the idea that Charles has talked about building this so that it'll support 1 billion people and something that's going to last 100 years, and so the design principles that are going into the protocol are it's being built to stand the test of time. Now it's really all about once we get these smart contracts running, people bring their ideas and we can go.
Yep, absolutely. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that, but just to touch very briefly back on what we were talking about with identity. So I'm going to be very interested to see on the progress that we're going to make with the identity solutions with Tala Prism, because if we think about these children now who are in school using these credentials for things like report cards, keeping track of any type of certifications, in the future, one thing that I'm very curious to see about would be when that child is ready to vote, maybe once they turn 18 and they're able to vote for the leader of their country, things like that, and be able to verifiably prove that their vote was legitimate. And what's going to be very curious to see is what comes from Africa, because I think what's happening with blockchain is Africa, because it doesn't have all the things that we've seen so far in developed parts of the world with the legacy systems. In the United States, for example, we've already got so many things in place. Like you got the Republican, Democrat, two-party system. You got these big banks, all that kind of stuff. But in Africa, it's almost like a clean slate. So what's going to come from that, I think, is going to be very interesting to see. So voting is something I'm interested, because, if we're able to have Africa act as almost like a pilot for some of these solutions, and then the rest of the world looks at Africa and saying, hey, they're doing this, why can't we do this? It's a world of possibilities, I think, with blockchain technology. And just to think about, where we are right now, I think we're still super early.
Yeah, I totally agree that we we are totally very super early, and who knows how the future is going to look like. Sometimes we all know corruption is everywhere throughout the world, but in Africa, the impact is even more. And one of the reasons is just because of the amount of natural resources that is on the continent. Like, it's a very, very rich continent, but because the structures are not there, it's open to corruption and corrupting influences. So like we look at blockchain, and in terms of making people who are just there, and the only reason that sometimes they seek power in terms of voting is to have access to some of these natural resources. So how will the future look if we're able to these people become redundant in a way, in the sense that whatever trade or financial issues, or even that traceability thing that you mentioned, right? If we don't have to depend on people to actually make those things happen, then all those corrupting influences already, it's gone. So in future, it's not just even putting voting on the blockchain, but how will voting, even begin to look like in a world that's more decentralized, and we don't need so many middlemen, having to say yea or nay, or to oversee a transaction. So for me, that's one of the things that I really, I look forward to. I hope that I live long enough to see when, the governments that we see right now, it's not the way that it is, but it's evolved into something that, I was listening to Charles's interview with Lex, and
oh, that was fantastic.
Yeah, that was great. One thing that he said, it becomes a fairer world, right, where everybody is, has a chance. It's not because of who you are, or who but it's just that the system is so decentralized that everybody has a chance. So that's what I'm looking forward to, Pritesh.
Yep. Yeah, likewise. That chat with Lex Friedman was incredible. Just learned so many amazing things from that. But just to kind of segue a little bit, so Sydney, you had talked about smart contracts. So that is something I'm also really excited about. I know the Cardano community is just can't wait for Alonzo and Gauguin and all this kind of stuff. So let's talk a little bit about that. You guys are also training developers, getting people up to speed so that they can actually start building on Cardano. Mm-hmm. I guess, could you tell us a little bit about what that actually looks like?
I can start with that. So when in terms of what WADA is trying to do, there are endemic barriers in West and other parts of Africa. And one of the main ones that we try to focus on is infrastructure, because we want to make sure that we're able to remove some of those barriers in terms of electricity, in terms of internet, and just access to information in terms of education, and actually, making it possible for those solutions to be created by people that are close to the challenges. So side by side that, not only are we establishing WADA hubs in countries all over West and other parts of Africa, and also in the diaspora, but we are also partnering with other already established sort of IT entities and companies and stuff like that. Like ABCD is one of our key partners, and that is something that we are looking to scale very quickly. I think I'll hand it over to Sydney. He has a way of putting that. Yeah.
Of talking a lot.
No, you say it so well.
No, thank you. it's exciting. I just think it's really exciting. I really do. I think that what I see as far as the future goes is we get to create it the way that we want it to be, and all of the problems or what we've identified as problems in our local communities and in our larger communities, we literally have rails to connect with people who see things in a similar fashion that are willing to work together, and then we have this way to codify these ideas that we have into a network that will connect and execute and and manage. So I really, I think, one of the analogies that I use is it's just such an apt analogy, and I really haven't found one that really talks about things or kind of shows things in the same way. But it's the 1900s, and I'm in Detroit now, so I'm from Detroit Metro. That's where I am now. And Detroit had a huge role of helping put the world on wheels. But back in the early 1900s, it was like where we are today. So you have these automobiles that are being created. This is before Ford, because after Ford was basically the entrepreneur that turned automobiles into an assembly line, made them affordable for everyone, and then they just kind of proliferated across the world. But prior to that, things were moved by rail, and then also by horseback. But the folks who initially started with the automobile, they looked stupid, because it's like there were no roadways, so you're trying to drive an automobile across land that's not, hasn't been prepared for an automobile. And, everybody's like, what are you doing? And they're like, just wait, the future's going to be great, and they're like, yeah, okay, dude, you know what I mean? But look at what happened. I mean, what happened is we ended up developing an interstate, state managed interstate road system to support these things, specifically to support these automobiles. And no one could have imagined where we would get to today with, I'm going to take a little shot here, with Amazon having huge warehouses and vans going out everywhere delivering delivering goods to everyone. You couldn't have imagined that. And that's kind of how I look at where we are right now with blockchain, crypto, Cardano, etc., is that we can't imagine. No, we're in the 1900s right now, and we're the folks that are like, oh, those cars are cool. You know what I mean? I can see it. But we can't even begin to imagine, how this technology is what's going to become a part of our world as a result of this technology. We have our ideas about it. We have kids; they're going to have new ideas. And 100 years from today, I'm pretty certain that this place will be unrecognizable as a result of this technology, and we will have created to take from President Barack Obama, not his statement per se, but he used it quite a bit. But we will create this more perfect union across the world, and at the end of the day, I think that's ultimately as beings where we're trying to get to. It's just making sure that people are eating and have the food that they need and have the resources so that they can be creative and participate in the economy.
Wow, I love the analogy. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you think about the infrastructure back then, it's like you had dirt roads and then you had these Ford Model Ts. Person with the horse and carriage would be looking at the guy in the car like, what are you doing? Right?
Yeah, so, totally.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. I agree with you. One thing I was thinking about also, just to kind of put things in a perspective with how early we are, is just looking at companies that really created some household names for themselves. I mean, if we think about Apple, the company IPO'd back in 1980, and it took them almost 30 years to get to the point where their company had released the iPhone. The iPhone was released back in 2007. So, that amount of time before they were able to come up with a product to get them to the point where they're a household name. And then even then, that many years longer in order to get to the point where they can, fine tune their technology to get to the point where it's truly a revolutionary technology. So yeah, we're still early, and the infrastructure is just being built.
It is. The pace of this is going because we're at this quickening, right? So technology. I mean, we're already, in this movement towards the singularity, right? And it's already happening because there are technologies and applications of new technologies that are being created today that we're not aware of. They're being created parallel with blockchain, and there's a lot of stuff that's going on that we can't see. So that's happening right now. So we're in this place where there is going to be an acceleration, and I just think Cardano has positioned itself in order to be the fastest car in that acceleration, because you have Bitcoin, which is its primary application is as a currency, and then you have Ethereum, which is the largest kind of smart contract platform out there. But clearly everybody knows it's a great platform, although it's kind of started off as a we're going to see if this can happen, and they found that it did, and now they have to retroactively make some changes so that things can perform better. And here we are, with the fastest car, already prepared for the future. So I think when smart contracts come out, and then we have these converters and all kinds of stuff. When smart contracts come out, I do believe that like the pace of blockchain itself will accelerate because of what Cardano has added to the ecosystem. Because you're going to be able to build all of the stuff that you want to build, and you can build it trusting that it's going to work at the pace that you need it to work, and it's going to have the toolkit that allows you to build whatever your mind desires.
Yep, absolutely. And just touching on some of the things as far as presenting opportunities for people who live in underdeveloped parts of the world, like in Africa, I guess if we could go into a little bit of how Cardano, not so much as a technology, like as a blockchain, but like how does the end user benefit? Because from my understanding, it's like we're going to have these people who have the technical proficiency to build on Cardano and to build on blockchain. But then I think that the real use and adoption is going to come from the people who use the blockchain but don't necessarily realize it. Like it's going to become a thing where it's happening in the background. It's not something that the end user really understands or really even has to think about. So what are some of the things that you might see in places like Africa where you would feel like that actually happens? I guess open to anybody.
Yes. So in my case, I think if we look at it as a solution that people are going to take advantage of, is first of all, it has to be open. If it is open source and if there are no licenses to access it, it's already cheap. Because, for example, even the cheap application, like the WhatsApps and the free quote applications are used just because of that value they offer. For the blockchain, like an individual in Africa will use it if it's accessible. For example, when you look at those children in Ethiopia, once they know that the information is held somewhere else other than in their school or other than in their country, and anybody in the world can access that information, they're going to be opening their eyes and know that there's something else they can show. That show can be art. They can look at it and say, you know what, I'm going to draw something, and people who are not here will be able to see it. An art, like an artist will be able to say, you know what, I have an audience which is not limited to my country, because I already know that they're able to see something which is not just limited to what I used to show. And that will be an opening for creativity. The NFTs area is booming still in the developed world, because they kind of understand the concept of art and how it is valuable. But those children who are in Africa will also be able to look at it and see it as an opportunity to offer themselves, to show what they can do, because there's not going to be any barrier. And that alone can open so many things. Like in my case, when I look at Cardano and what it can offer, it's still, when I look at the smart contract, it's like I'm somebody who is like on the line, you know, like when you're going to sprint, you're still waiting for something to kind of click, and you have so much you can do. For example, in terms of school, we are looking forward to using Cardano to publish school recipients who because I manage a school in DRC. And since 2002, we had thousands of laureates who concluded their studies, and we have their data available. Like, should Cardano be available to save it, even with a fee? That will be life-saving for us, because then we will have so little overhead. We have these big files of paper and hard drives that could be easily squished into a file that we're going to trust, because trust is the issue here. As long as it's not corrupted, then even within 10 years, we know that this is actually the data we pushed on the network. So that's one application I can think of immediately. And young people are always there to find opportunities. I remember even when you see all this art, like even singing, I'm already old when I hear some songs. You know, like young people end up doing things that you didn't even predict. And so I think we can trust them to do it yet. Yeah.
You know, like just to follow up from what Jonty just said. So it's actually absolutely not just individuals, but also, you know, like somebody like Jonty, who actually has a school in DRC, in terms of even just managing those records, right? Because now they need, you know, as the school, you know, as the years roll by without blockchain, they will need higher and higher, you know, in terms of even, you know, the room that they keep all those student records. Yeah. So if that deal that happened in Ethiopia with the Ethiopian, you know, the Ministry of Education, if that's something that's quickly available to, say, you know, a private operator, you know, like Jonty, then, you know, that's already very huge for an entrepreneur. When you look at like a country like Ghana, you look at land, you know, just land, you know, ownership, you know.
Titles.
Yeah. So my mom, you know, she bought a piece of land, right? And when you buy that land, you know, like the process that you have to go through to make sure that that land belongs to you, it's just something that nobody in the Western world can really imagine. Because as soon as you buy that land and you can, you know, like you get the paper, that's just not enough. Sometimes you actually have to, you know, start building right away. You know, you have to put some structures on there, and you have to somehow demarcate it. And there are some people who even have had to, you know, get security guards to actually, you know, watch their land, because, you know, you turn your back and somebody can just go, and then, you know, sort of before you realize that the land belonged to somebody else. So just that, even removing that, you know, making sure that, okay, I buy the land, you know, I can prove that it's mine, it's on the blockchain, no headaches, whether you're in the diaspora or whether you're in the continent, you know that you have the house and it's, you know, you have the land, you've put a building on it and it's yours forever. That's huge. When it comes to even financing, right? A lot of, you know, a lot of small companies are not able to expand just because they don't have access to funding. And the reason that they don't have access to funding still goes back to the fact that, you know, like identity is an issue. People don't have credit, you know, they can't prove that when they borrow money, they can actually repay it. So all those things has a, you know, like if we can, you know, quickly get to, hopefully September, get to smart contracts and, you know, start implementing some of these solutions. It's you know, like it's huge in terms of, yeah.
Mercy, to follow up on what you mentioned, I will go back to a proposal that will be for Fund 5.
Right.
We had proposed a funding for small businesses using the blockchain. It's one of the proposals because, as Mercy mentions, myself, like I'm involved in funding small businesses. What happens is that you usually rely on friends in WhatsApp groups, people you studied with, they're raising some money, they fix an amount, and 3 or 4 managers will let you collect the amount and you all put in the money, and then they launch the business. And afterwards, what happens is that a lawyer will take some signed documents, like I will say, I'm going to put in 10,000, and then the lawyer will have a list of people, and the lawyer in his suitcase will know who owns what to who, like ownership, shares are basically in that suitcase. And also in the WhatsApp board, like really, there is nothing else you receive other than the money you'll be getting after a while. You have like dividends. And then after that, it becomes more serious. The more lawyers become involved. Some people have individual lawyers. They will get copies. They will go to the notary. They will get some document. All of that is always a matter of paperwork. And those paperwork, sometimes I only have one copy of that paper. And I can only trust them because they know me. And I only trust them because we know each other. And I can only trust them because we live close to each other. So it's like a very localized economy. With the blockchain, that can be opened up to somebody who is far, even by the geographical distance, geographical separation of people. You can still invest in a company and get a link to that company by ownership of the shares. And should those shares pay dividends, you're also going to be getting those dividends. And again, you're not going to be relying like today. Today, what happens is that all the shares are put in one bank account or in one bank, and that bank will be accessible to you or not accessible to you. So there's a lot of things that even accessibility itself is an issue. With the blockchain, that will be solved. If those shares are put into NFTs and the dividends are sent through a more smart contract, then somebody who is in Thailand can invest in Congo without any problem. As long as they have a history of that company, they're going to trust that that history is going to happen again in the future. And that will be a game changer because people don't realize it, but sometimes even people in the diaspora want to invest, but sometimes in order to invest, they have to travel. And after traveling, they have to follow up things that they don't understand as business people. And most investors in the developed world don't have to worry about all that paperwork and all those steps. And I think blockchain will also offer it for Africa, and it's going to be very, very an opening in terms of investment opportunities.
Wow. So many great points you mentioned. Yeah, go ahead, Sydney.
I wanted to jump in really quick too. And I know, and I just want to, piggyback on what Jonty was saying. Like the way that I see it is like these are things that they're happening. There's no way back. Well, they're happening. How they happen, we'll see how they present themselves. But these are things that are going to happen. So these investment opportunities for developing countries, or these are going to happen. These things are already in the idea of Jonty and the folks that he's working with.
Not only happening, but actually it did happen. What happened is that I was looking at, that when that company was, it's like a financial institution, it's a prime funding corporation. We were raising like $1 million, and then I had offered my co-shareholders that I'm going to save our shares in the blockchain. I had been kind of troubling Mercy about this issue because it was urgent, and we ended up creating those NFTs on the Binance Smart Chain. But again, I think of Cardano as an easier solution because at least there I know how good it is going to be in terms of flexibility and also ownership. So that's only because I was short in time, but it did happen. They were quite happy. They were quite where one guy was able to visit Singapore and see how he can even access his funds from there if I sent him money. It was quite eye-opening for our guys in DRC when they saw it, because they had never seen it before. They didn't know what they are using MetaMask to track those PFC, but it's only because we are using it because Cardano was not yet available, but Cardano will be our first choice, of course.
Yeah, and it's so exciting. It's so exciting, So like it's happening right now, and there's so much opportunity. And one thing I do like to mention, because there's a lot that's happened, that's brought us to where we are today, and even the creation of blockchain, right? I mean, Bitcoin being created when it was to solve a problem because of like corruption. People are like, hey, these guys are not being not being stewards of what they are managing, and people are getting hurt. So we need to change the system, and now we have the system. And then specifically in Africa, I mean, there's so much that's happening on the continent. One of the things that I like to mention a lot is the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is an agreement between the countries of Africa to create one unit. It's actually it went into force January 1st, 2021, and it is the largest trading bloc by country in the world, period. So as the infrastructure starts to come into place inside on the continent, and I mean, really, like, cities are going to be built. I mean, everything that you need for a developed economy is going to be built. So there's a tremendous amount of opportunity there. A lot of this stuff is going to be built using new technology, including blockchain, right? So this is going to be technologies that don't have to, or solutions that don't necessarily have to deal with the legacy issues. So there's just a huge opportunity, on the continent, and then even in the diaspora. I mean, with you being in Georgia, they're in the diaspora, which I consider African Americans to be part of the diaspora. There's a lot that's been going on, and specifically in my country, in the United States of America, as it relates to the African diaspora, and what happens nationally in the country. So these communities, hoods, that we call, there's going to be those opportunities are going to show up in those areas as well, where people who are not normally invited to be a part of the American economy are going to find ways to contribute, to the economy and to the rest of the world. So I mean, it's so big, and it's so exciting. And I just always say, like, the future hasn't happened yet. We get to create it. So it doesn't have to be ugly and just dystopian, and we get to create this. Look at who's sitting on this. All of us that are here today. I'm sure that we all have good thoughts about what we want the future to look like, and we get to make that happen.
Yeah, 100%. And just kind of tying into that, if we think about the demographic of a lot of these places, to think about how young some of these people are. I mean, I've had amazing conversations with Josh with ABCD and Proof of Africa, and just to hear how fired up he is, like the amount of passion coming from him, it's like, and to think about an entire continent being covered with people like that, the opportunities are available for these younger people who are so hungry to see change. I think that's what's also really incredible about it.
Absolutely.
That's so totally true. Some of the young people that we interact with, oh my gosh, you can see that they are fired up, they are hungry, they have a vision, they want to go, right? So as Sydney said, we get to create this. We get to help some of these young people to actually have their visions come true. We're excited.
Yeah, absolutely. So guys, this would be a great segue into talking a bit about Project Catalyst. So with Project Catalyst, we've got Fund 4 underway. I think voting ends for Fund 4 on the 25th. So in a few days, I think this would be a great opportunity to touch on some of the Catalyst proposals for WADA, what you guys have coming up in Fund 4 and even in Fund 5.
Janti, do you want to go?
Yes, I can go ahead. We proposed a project called the Adoption of Cardano in DRC. The proposal was to fund an awareness campaign in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and the amount solicited was 3,000, and we basically are planning to host individuals who are members of parliament and who are also influential within the capital city of Kinshasa through an event which will be published and also broadcasted locally on the TV and on radio. We do have friends and family members who are in politics. They are legislators. And through them, we think that at least we are going to not only inform them, they're already aware to a certain degree because they're young and they do follow up. My brother is an MP, has a degree in engineering, so he kind of knows blockchain to a certain extent. He hasn't practiced it, he hasn't bought coins yet, but through me, he's aware of how my portfolio, how I handle it. And through them, we at least will publish and see how developers locally can come up with idea in terms of feasible and interesting applications using blockchain in general, because blockchain back then was taken as a scam by Bitcoin sellers who were basically coming and taking savings from people and promising. It did realize itself that they were making gains, but those gains were basically held by the people who own those Bitcoins. And that really made the government kind of worry of what is being done. And they were looking at the blockchain in a not so favorable way. So we think that through such events involving politicians, involving legislators, we're going to at least put a certain speech which is controlled by the people who actually know about the blockchain. We're going to speak for ourselves and say what actually blockchain is meant for, and not what it had been taken advantage of by in the past. And through that event, through the proposal for adoption of Cardano in DRC, we hope that that's going to be a first step into creating adoption and limiting the negative impact of those scammers.
Yeah, and just to add to that, in Cameroon,
kind of blinding membrane to kind of.
Yeah, and just to add to that, what Jonty is doing in DRC, just next door, that's Cameroon. Megan was supposed to be on this show, but she was not able to. But she and her husband Manfo, they're actually right now in Cameroon. And basically, what a lot of what they're going to do is IT, in terms of onboarding those developers and entrepreneurs. So to that effect, we have about 3 proposals. We have dev incentives in Cameroon. We have West Africa dev tools and events. And that's basically actually across board. We also have our WADA outreach in terms of developing an integrated management system that actually, as soon as we get, somebody or an entity join the WADA network, they have a place to go in terms of, how they onboard into the Cardano ecosystem and into, distributed ledger technology in general, and how to start creating those dApps. So, I don't think that I can go through all of our proposals, but just to say that, look out for us in Fund 4. In Fund 5, one of our biggest proposals is just an infrastructure building proposal. And that's actually one of our biggest proposal to date. It's in the Grow Africa, Grow Cardano category. And basically, we just want to be very intentional in terms of how we establish hubs through our West, Central, and even Southern Africa. Just to create that space that we can start education, start building that community where people feel comfortable and they're able to share ideas and able to, start creating. Also, we're working on bringing in proposers. That's one of the big things that we do. And actually, that's how we got to, we got into a relationship with Jonty because he came and it's like, what's going on? So we sort of worked him through a Catalyst. We did tell him that, like for your first proposal, don't make the amount too big. Just, make it such that, you have your foot in the door and you're able to prove what you can do. And, like already, Jonty puts a lot of his own money into his work and he's more than proved himself. Sometimes I think, it should have been more than 3K because he could have done so much more. So, just look out for us. And, we are here to stay. In some ways, it's slow. Doing stuff in Africa can be very slow, as Megan and Manfo are finding out right now. But there are some accelerators. Sometimes it's really, really slow, and then suddenly there's this leapfrog, and this thing, happens very suddenly. So there are some things that would take a little bit of time. but then we will all be pleasantly surprised in terms of the work that will happen in Africa through WADA. Jonty said something, I think it was last week, that, you know, like it's good what IOG is doing at the government level, but a lot of the work that will actually happen will be, you know, private operators, individuals, you know, as they get that ownership and they begin to see what is possible and they begin to dream, you know, those are the people that will actually make things happen. Of course, we need that, you know, high level, you know, to create that atmosphere where blockchain can thrive in Africa. But the main adoption will actually be the ownership and the people that actually, you know, take this and see the possibilities and create things for themselves. That's how we can make this happen.
Yes, Mercy. And again, reminding that, for example, something like the agreement with the Ministry of Education in Ethiopia, if that was, if there was something similar in the open source or on the accessible source, well, that data set will be filled, because I have many people who will be informed about it. We have like conferences of managers, and such an idea, sharing it there, that's going to be 10 universities just uploading files. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's very cool. I mean, as far as what you guys are doing, I love that amongst all of your proposals, there's a big focus on education wherever you go. And I think that's a big part of the actual adoption of technology, especially with blockchain being so early. So really like to see that. And then, you know, big kudos as well with your proposals. I think I looked through hundreds of proposals, and I got to say, out of all of them, one that really stuck out was, you know, the one that you had in Fund 4. And I just loved how well it was laid out. Like, I loved how there was a budget breakdown. You guys laid out very well, like what the funds would be used for, your mission behind the proposal. So kudos to you guys. I definitely will be sure to leave all those links for those proposals for our audience and anybody who's interested in supporting you guys. And as far as the amount of money that you're asking for, you know, it's something so modest. You know, I was very surprised to see that. Mercy, you had even mentioned, you know, $3,000. It's, you know, it's a very, very modest sum of money. So I think that what you guys are able to do, hopefully to see your proposals get funded in future funding rounds, you know, hopefully you're able to also come back and take advantage of Catalyst. And it's also very, very exciting to see what you guys are doing in Africa. You're able to open that up to the entire world to get an idea of what you're able to do. So I just think it's great, you know, with Catalyst, being able to submit an idea, get proposal funded, you know, so you guys are doing amazing things, and I would really like to support you.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's one of the amazing things about Cardano, right? It's not just this great protocol, but it's also giving people the ability to actually start building with the governance, and that governance, you know, tool, if I should say, it doesn't just give people a say in terms of how the future could look like, but as I said, it's also actually provides something, you know, it provides money to actually make those dreams happen. So yeah, Cardano is just amazing, and we're not saying that because we're looking for money, but you know, I have been with Cardano since late 2017, 2018. And it's just an amazing community. Everything is so well thought out, and we are very happy to be here, and we'll be here for the long term.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Very cool. So I wanted to talk a little bit also about, you know, some things that we're seeing. Recently, I did an interview with the team at World Mobile. So they had this ideology of, if you want to bank the unbanked, first you have to connect the unconnected. I guess if we could, because I would love to learn more about what that really means. You know, for somebody like myself, I live in the developed parts of the world. You know, I can go in my house and flip a switch and all of a sudden I have electricity, right? I can turn on the lights. What does that actually look like in Africa from people who have actually lived it? And also with being able to provide the correct infrastructure to support the adoption of this technology, what do you see as some of the potential obstacles for doing that?
I will say many places in Africa are remote. Remote by quite a large distance. Like when I think of remote places in the US, or Canada, those are remote, but they're still connected for the most part. They're only remote just because they're not close, but if they make a phone call, they're going to get it. In the Congo, for example, we have individuals who have not even seen other people other than their own tribes. Like really, they're just in the forest. There is an equatorial forest, which is like the little Amazon of Africa. It's not so little, because when you go over it in the plane, it takes you like 2 hours and more to cross it. And when you're above it, you feel as if you're just going above some grass. It's basically green under, and there are people in those forests, in those places, and some cities even. Sometimes there is a little place where the city is open in the forest, and the people live there. So the main obstacle will be connection. Being connected through the mobile phones, we kind of jumped certain steps. Even in those forests, when they are far away from people, when the mobile phone came online, they were the first people to be connected, because for them it was actually a matter of life and death, I would say. So they had more mobile connections than even people who were living in the city, who were still depending on faxes and sometimes even landlines. But on the mobile phones, they had them quite early. So the need itself makes them able to be connected. And still today, even though they have cell phones, the biggest issue is still energy. So charging a phone, you have to charge it in a place. People actually have generators and they rent you. You go and you charge your phone, you leave your phone, and whenever you call somebody, someone else answers the phone, because the charger is actually the one who is holding the phone. And then they tell you to wait a few minutes until the owner comes back, and sometimes the owner will come back tomorrow. So energy is first the issue, and the energy today is being solved because the batteries are becoming cheaper to get. Phones are becoming smarter at a cheaper cost. I've seen somebody buy a $70 phone. I think it was some kind of, I don't know which phone it was. Was it some Chinese phone? But they do have all the applications necessary. And using those phones, if we're today in 2021, in 2025, possibly with $100, they're going to be able to get something as smart as this phone I have here. So we think that even though they are not connected, the connection gap is decreasing faster than it had been a long time ago, because even in terms of energy, solar panels are expanding in Africa. In those areas where they used to charge using generators and some oil, today they have solar panels that are coming online. So I will say, yes, the problem is still being remote. And in terms of blockchain and microfinance, so something like Cardano or Bitcoin or Ethereum, it's only because it's still monetary. You still need to get money to participate. You still need to give some money to participate. And those areas, some of them don't have access to a bank. They don't have access to a bank. It's an inconvenience for them to join, but the mobile money services have already put mobile banking, like the M-Pesa in Kenya. When M-Pesa went in Kenya live, it didn't take even a year to be full of M-Pesa alternatives in the DRC. That's how fast it goes. So as long as there is a solution, it's adopted so fast that it doesn't really take like years. It takes like 6 months because everybody is running to implement it. The blockchain one is going to be live. And if a bank needs to participate, some banks are going to go far because the finance will be detached from the infrastructure, and little financial institutions are going to provide as many services as there are by big banks. Like if I know even in these developed countries, some small financial institutions are able to participate, even though they're different. So blockchain in Africa will be also different, but it's going to also be able to make people get involved in banking and more.
I gotcha. That's very interesting, because it's like learning about all that kind of stuff. I can only take bits and pieces and kind of, sort that in and make my own opinion, but it's amazing just to hear from somebody who's living it, who's seeing it. So yeah, I think by the time we do get to that point, maybe in 2025, I really do feel like blockchain technology in Africa, it's just going to be normal. People won't even realize that they're using it. It'll just be on their smartphone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's going to be kind of the adoption pattern for the rest of the world too, right? Because we're the nerds of the space, really. If you're in blockchain right now, you're a nerd. You know what I mean? You know, so I'm sorry to tell you, you know, but you know, and the car analogy is still a great analogy. You know, you used it earlier. When you get in the car, you have no idea how the engine works. You know how to turn the key, you know, and hit the gas and hit the brake and turn the steering wheel, hopefully. And if you know that, you're good to go. And I think that's exactly what the you should not be aware of the technology as it's, you know, as the adoption curve, you know, increases and goes up. You know, you're supposed to be familiar with the interface. I mean, I honestly don't know exactly how, you know, cell phones, you know, the iOS, you know, system works or the Android system works, but I do know how to get on and push a couple of buttons and get to the app that I need.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing to think about. Now, as far as some of the things, I wanted to just kind of transition a little bit. So now you had mentioned ABCD. We had talked briefly about Proof of Africa, and then now we have WADA with the West African Decentralized Alliance. So I guess one question I would have is, how do all these pieces fit together? I guess with what you guys are trying to do with bringing about education and increasing adoption, how is it that these three entities are working together?
So when you say three entities, what three do you mean?
Oh, well, so like, well, I'm not sure exactly, is ABCD like part of WADA, or
right,
is that
right. Yeah. So we have been having a lot of conversations in terms of how you know, this could look like. We you know, we can say that we have an answer for you, you know, with regards to that right now. What we know is that you know, for entities like, as you know, ABCD, POA, even Smiles, Cardano, XYZ, and a lot of, you know, other entities and individuals. It's, you know, right now we get together, we do a project, and then we sort of let that relationship evolve. As you know, you know, right now when we talk about a lot of, you know, an organization like WADA, it will probably sort of operate best as a DAO, we are thinking. We really don't know how a DAO really could look like. So it's, you know, what I'll say right now is that it's still a conversation. You know, like, our doors are open, everyone is welcome. It's not just for Africans or people of African descent or even diaspora. You know, it's for everybody, anyone that sees that potential in Africa. You know, like, come, let's do this together, and we will figure out how the structure looks like. I wouldn't say that we have a structure right now. Sydney, am I right?
Are you going to put me on the spot?
I am going to put you on the spot.
It's in the mental space right now. It's not I don't know if it's quite on paper just yet, but it's up there somewhere. Yeah.
Sure.
But yeah, I think what is exciting about it is there are a lot of passionate people who see the vision that are coming together, and that's been kind of the cohesion for us, because we see it and we're excited to work together, and they're all great people.
Yeah.
And I also will say that for me, and I think even for some other people who offered proposals, it's like proposals are like meant to solve something that the market cannot solve easily. For example, that awareness campaign in DRC, the 3,000 will be used for an event for promotional purposes, for the blockchain, for the benefit of Cardano. But myself as a business person, I have more to invest in Cardano, or to lend into Cardano, or even to help in Cardano, because from a financial point of view, it is very interesting on a financial point of view if it works the way we think it's going to work, because already part of it is already helpful. Even saving and avoiding depreciation of some funds, that alone is a benefit for a country like DRC, because the money over there is devaluated on a frequent basis. And also the banking sector is not very strong. So if I need to send somebody money, if I need somebody to receive money, then those mobile banking systems, the blockchain, those are solutions that are very, very, very beneficial in terms of even of on a very private point of view.
I have some family that lives in Zimbabwe, and what they had experienced there with their currency being hyperinflated. I just heard horror stories. Luckily, they were able to get out of it. They had went to South Africa. But what we saw in Zimbabwe was the currency just becoming so hyperinflated. You go and you try and buy something. It takes an entire wheelbarrow worth of these paper bills. And by the time you get there to go and try and buy the good, it might not even be there anymore. It might not be available for sale. So absolutely, just with cryptocurrency not having the central authority, right? It's decentralized. I love the fact that what you guys are doing with WADA is also you're kind of opening up to the world to kind of add value. It doesn't necessarily have to be, hey, you live in Africa, but it's really open to everybody. So absolutely, the points that we're talking about here today, they completely resonate with me on a personal level as well. My dad is also from South Africa. He's had to go through some of the things that we were talking about in terms of capital controls and whatnot, being able to send money. Remittances is a huge thing. I've got family in India as well, just being able to send money. But then you've got these people, Western Union, they'll take 30% of what you're trying to send. And it's like, that's another huge use case for Cardano and blockchain.
Absolutely.
And I think it's a good thing. I think there's probably an opportunity again for them to be stewards of that technology. But I think it was taken advantage of. It's this kind of rent seeking that probably got a little bit out of hand. And as a result, Bitcoin came about in 2008, and here we are in 2021, and it's just a matter of time.
Yep, absolutely. We're here. We're ready to start building.
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, guys, it has been a pleasure. I really enjoyed our conversation. Mercy, Sydney, and Jonty, thank you three so much. I'm really hoping to get the opportunity to speak with you guys again, hopefully keeping up to date with your progress, with your Catalyst proposals, hoping for the best to see you guys get funded. But before we sign off for today, was there any last minute remarks?
I think very quickly what I'll say that even though right now we don't really know how the structure of WADA will evolve, one of the concrete things that we have right now is the hubs, right? Right now we are active, 6, it's almost getting to 8 countries. So getting that physical location and trying to see how that could look like, that's actually very focusing for us right now. So we are looking forward to how that will evolve. And right now what we're doing is that, like in WADA, we believe that, people or entities do best when they're doing what they know how to do well, right? So we don't prescribe anything for our hubs. What we do is that, like based on the local situation, and what their needs are, they specialize. Like in Cameroon, it's IT, agriculture. In Ghana, it's more government, academics, and sort of, across, they all specialize differently. So, just to throw it out there that, like at least at that level, we have something to start with and to see, as I said, how things evolve. People like Jonty, they come initially to us with maybe a proposal, and very quickly they become part of the network. So in that sense, we have a place that we are starting and seeing where we will end up. And thanks for having us, Pritesh.
Yes, absolutely, guys. I really enjoyed it. Thank you all so much for joining.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you for having us.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Hope we get to talk again soon, guys. Thank you so much.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Take
care.
All right, take care.